uncertainty. Many of us are stressed out, so we wanted to get some tips on how to best deal with it.
And there is really no better person to help us through it than our own resident funny man, Fritz Coleman. Fritz, thanks for joining us and filling us in on this.
Hi guys, I'm missing you. I'm happy to be part of the show. I think it's an understatement to say that this is probably the most stressful situation that most of us have ever been in, particularly younger people. And we have our own ways of dealing with stress. My way of dealing with stress is our cat, Alfie, because he's a feline sociopath, and as long as I'm afraid of what he's doing, I'm taking my thoughts outside my own head, so it's very important. But we decided to reach out to a professional. This is Clark Sowers. For over 20 years, he's been an expert in stress-related issues. As a matter of fact, he was the director of human resources for the Anschutz Entertainment Company, i.e. Staples Center, i.e. Caesar's Palace. And the first point he makes is that every generation has a dramatic event like this. It's part of the human condition.
So I feel like it's part of the human condition for the world to go through crises at times, and almost every generation has faced it, but this is the first time we're facing it. So it's new, and things that are new are very scary to us.
And Clark says, really the control you have over it is your reaction to it. You don't have to react with fear and anxiety.
The first thing to do is as we're feeling the stress that comes with the pandemic, is to really think about how we're responding to it. So instead of responding out of fear, seeing it as a challenge. So this is a challenge, this is a challenging situation, but how can I overcome the challenge? And what that does is it feeds our bodies with different hormones. If we're just focused on the fear and the anxiety, we're going to pump our body with cortisol and other hormones that over time is actually bad for us and actually lowers our immune system. So the best thing to do is just to see this pandemic as a challenge. We can overcome it as a nation. We can overcome it individually. And then it kicks in other types of hormones that are actually good for us and help our body and will help us be resilient to the stress and even the coronavirus.
And I'll tell you, one of the most valuable things Clark discussed was some advice on how to deal with it, and I couldn't agree more. It has to do with social media.
My advice is to get off social media as much as possible, because that is going to increase the freak out level even more so. My advice is to just look at headlines. I went to NBCLosAngeles.com this morning and just looked through, and it just gives me the key things I need to know. If I start looking at Facebook and other things, it just feeds my frenzy. So it's just look briefly and then move on to other things.
And finally, I think you'll agree with this, because I have noticed it with my very sparse interactions with other humans outside my family. People are feeling connected. And one thing we can take away from this experience is there is strength in numbers. We have one another.
I'm 100% confident that we will get through this. And I am already just seeing people band together and people not just being in it alone. So it's something that we can just weather. And I feel, within the next 2 to 4 weeks, we'll have good news coming out of this. Our nation is being so proactive on combating this and minimizing the spread, but I think we'll have good news very soon.
It's all about love. Send one another virtual antibacterial hugs every day and just know that we're all in this together and we're going to get through it. Incidentally, I was fascinated to find out Clark's reason for wanting to be in this field, and that is that he has experienced stress-related illnesses since he was 14 years old, so it was kind of self-examination. Interesting tips.
That really is some great advice there, Fritz, and we hope to see Alfie in the future, your crazy cat.
Well, I'm not afraid for myself. I'm afraid for our equipment, so I'm going to keep him out of the living room.
We'll take your word for it, Fritz. Good seeing you.